Well, hello there, Bonnie. Thank you so much for joining the show, Integrative Cancer Solution with Dr. Karlfeldt. So,
Good morning.
good morning. I know it's early. You're about to move. You're leaving us here, Idaho.
I am for Kentucky.
So tell me a little bit about your journey. You were diagnosed with cancer. What type of cancer was it?
Well, to begin with, in 2017, in August, I was diagnosed with, I believe it's pronounced adenocarcinoma, and in the lower left lung. And at that time, I decided to go with a wedge resection, no chemo, no radiation. And that was the end of that. And so then in August of 2019, I had a heart attack, which is relevant because they did a CT at that time. And in August of 2019, or 2020 rather, I felt like I was having symptoms of a heart attack again. So I went to the hospital, went to the ER. And when they compared, I wasn't having a heart attack, but when they compared the CT from the previous, from 11 months earlier, they saw that there were tumors. And then they went back in and did a PET scan. And so they were inoperable because it was too dangerous because of the location. So one of them was resting on the aorta, and the other one was between the pulmonary artery and the aorta. And to biopsy it, well, then I had a third one up in the left side of my lung, which just looked like a shadow. When I asked about it, they said, well, we're not worried about that one. We're worried about the other two. So, I kind of ignored that. And they had to go down my throat through the trachea to biopsy the one. It was too dangerous to biopsy the other, so they just assumed that it was the same cancer. And it wasn't cancer, even though it was in the mediastinal, it was in the lymph nodes, it wasn't in the lungs themselves. And they didn't believe it was a metastasis of the first. They didn't believe it was a recurrence. They thought it was primary. So they went forward with a treatment plan, which is a one size fits all. And they gave me my options of chemo and radiation, and they tested and saw that I was eligible for the immunotherapy. And if I did their program, which I didn't really pay attention to the details, I'm sorry, I don't know, there was a do it for a certain amount of time and then do it for them, because I was already thinking outside the box on this. So they gave me a 25% survival rate if I did the treatments. But with that, you had, the risks were death from chemo, or blindness, or a new cancer caused by the chemo, or scarring and burning of the lungs. And so, it didn't really sound too appealing. So I was looking elsewhere. And my children are wonderful, and my husband, and they were very supportive in whichever way I wanted to go with it. And my daughters are little researchers and found all kinds of alternative treatments for cancer that were standalone treatments. And they presented them to me, and we went through which ones we thought would be the most logical, sound ones to do, because some of them are very extreme. And we knew of your center because my daughters were familiar with you, they were friends with your wife, and we just knew about the Karlfeldt Center, so we got in touch with you. At that point, we learned that you offered all the things that we had decided we were going to go forward with. So that was a no-brainer. It made my decision very easy. But I did ask the oncologist and radiologist to kind of stick with me and do a progress check every few months or so to make sure that everything was going the way we wanted it to. And they said, well, you can always add our treatment plan. They weren't very happy with it. Actually said, well, if you don't do this, you're going to die. And I think that that's part of the decision making, is that it's a fear-based thing. All I'd ever heard about alternative treatments for cancer was that, patients try these alternatives, and by the time they see it doesn't work, it's too late to do the others and they die. Right there, it's based on fear. But for me, it was also a spiritual battle, because I'm a Christian, and I believe that by Christ's stripes we are healed, and that it's absolutely God's will for people to be healed. That, you know, he doesn't give us sickness. He's not testing us. He's given us the victory, the opposite. So for me to say, what if, is kind of saying, what if God's word's not true? So, and I know it is. And then when I looked at the characteristics of the cancer itself, that my particular tumor was described as chaotic. And that's the opposite of God. You know, God is not the author of confusion. So for me, it's like, oh, he's exposing himself here because it's just evil, you know, and it hides itself from the immune system that God gave you to heal. So the point was to focus on making sure the immune system was working, and that's where you came into play. And God provides gifts of healing in all different ways, and this was part of it. And so then we went forward with your 2-week program. Well, first we tried, you know, we were also doing other things. We were purifying water and eating organic, and I say we, my family was doing this all for me, and eating organic, and I started the supplements from you, and then I was doing some other ones. I did SEC and air filter and all kinds of things. So and homemade things. And so anyway, then we went to your program, and after 2 weeks on that, I had another scan. So I started that scan. I started the 2 weeks in October, and then I did a scan November 2nd. And that showed a drastic reduction. It was, I think, I mean, you probably have the notes in front of you. I don't, but I think it was a 70% reduction in one of the tumors, and 40%. The other one didn't reduce in size, but it was a 40% reduction in cancer activity. So, but for me, that was kind of like when Jesus was healing a blind man and he said, I see men as trees. Well, Jesus didn't say, oh, well, that's good. We'll see you tomorrow. You know, it was kind of like, that's not good enough. So for me, those results weren't good enough. So, but the treatments continued to work, you know, even after I've stopped them, it was continuing to do good for my body. And then you and I sat down and talked and thought, what was the next plan to, you know, what was the best bang for my buck, so to speak, to keep punching away. And you suggested the vitamin C IVs for twice a week for the next 2 months. And I did the poly MVA oral at home, which is awful stuff.
It is pretty nasty, yes.
Yes, it's pretty awesome. My husband was good enough to put it in capsules for me, and before the capsules dissolved, I swallowed them real quick. But, so it took a while, but yeah. So we did that for the next 2 months, and then I had another scan in January that showed the one up in the corner completely gone, the one on the aorta was completely gone, and the other one between the aorta and pulmonary artery, he said, was barely there. So I think the size of the lymph node was 11 by 5 and normal is 10. So, but barely there even wasn't good enough for me, because I wanted it to be, no, there's nothing, it's gone, you know.
Yeah.
I don't want any seeds of doubt there, you know. And so basically I said, oh, I also, part of your treatment was the keto plan. I worked with Jennifer Whitney on that, and the keto GAPS diet. And I was still on that. Not quite as good as I should have been. And then definitely not when I was traveling in March, but nevertheless, in April 5th, I had the scan, and the doctors are just amazed because it's completely gone. My oncologist under his mask was grinning from ear to ear. And he said, there is no sign anywhere of cancer in any place in your body. And so he said, I can't explain it, but I can't deny it.
No.
So, and they really don't understand, you know. I mean, I kind of, when I first went to the oncologist and they told me 25% chance survival after all those treatments, I thought, I was angry. I'm like, that's the best you can do. All these years of money, throwing money at research, supposedly, And that's the best you can do for the most common cancer.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say, what'd you do with our money? You know, like it's kind of that joke, what'd you do with the money your mother gave you for singing lessons? Yeah, it's the same thing. Where did it go? You haven't done anything. And if you don't have anything to prove the alternatives, well, why? Why don't you study the alternatives if 25% is the best you can do, you know? And yet it's such a foreign thing to them that he didn't even ask me what I was doing the first time I went back. He just said, well, I can't take the credit, but whatever you're doing, keep doing it. And then the second time, he said, what are you doing? I did fill him in a little bit. And the last time, he just couldn't explain it. And he didn't ask anymore, you know. But my pulmonologist, on the other hand, he has your brochure. Your name is all over the place. Karlfeldt Center is now known by a whole bunch of doctors and so, and a lot of people online, because I've actually had and Frank's doctor, my husband, and people online that have asked me, what did I do? So lots of people have your number. So maybe getting a flood of calls. And I gave you a brochure to my pulmonologist. He actually said, this is miraculous. And he said, I thought there was only one way, and you've proven there's not. Yeah. That's true. So, so this is, you know, fantastic. I think that aside from obviously from my own healing, my own benefit, it's like, it can be a blessing to other people, you know, to hear the story and know it's a combination of doing what your program does is restore the body to what it needs to be so that it can heal itself the way God designed it to. And so that's what I felt like I was doing, adding all these good things, healing things instead of poison that was death, you know, basically just death. So the two things were so obviously opposed to each other that I'm very thankful I made the decision I did and got the results I wanted. So
yeah, I mean, God is order, God is regeneration, God is healing,
restoration, right?
Exactly. And with that also, you bring in everything in your life. I mean, you had your family support, you had obviously you had God, and also the good nutrition that He's created. And then, you know, using things that, you know, like at our center. Do you remember what we did during those 2 weeks?
Well, I did the hocket treatments, which I loved. I did another one this week because they're really nice. And you can explain more what the hocket does to people. But then there was the Curum IVs, the vitamin C IVs, the poly MVA IVs, light therapy, ozone therapy. I did the stem cell therapy, and you'll have to remind me what else.
Okay.
A lot. Yeah. There's a lot going on, but and it was at the time I was tired, but you know, it was kind of the body detoxing and rebuilding. So, and you know, resetting and renourishing, so replenishing. So it was nothing like, at least you've seen, I've heard with chemo patients. So I was always thankful you know, no matter what I felt like, I was still thankful I wasn't going through the other. Anyway, so.
Yeah, it's always better when you see what chemo patients go through, the suffering, the pain, the nausea, the, you know, lack of appetite. I mean, all of those things.
I mean, it's just what they're doing is just killing their body. It's just the opposite of what you should be. That's just obviously my opinion. And I know there's people, you know, I have family that have gone the chemo radiation route and they're healed and they're fine with their decision. They walk with God with their decision. But this is my decision, and you know, I didn't have to do a lot of that stuff to my body, and I didn't think God wanted me to. So that part of that helped my decision greatly, because there's just nothing in me that thinks I'm supposed to do that. So because even logically it didn't make sense to me. So yeah, so
Yeah. So they,
Probably fill in people more of what the treatments were because I just sat back and and got the benefits, you know.
So we did the stem cell in combination with the photosensitizer. Photosensitizer then to accumulate then in your cancer cells and the stem cells, and to drive that photosensitizer more efficiently into the cancer cells, and then using then light therapy, intravenous and also external, so that we can then trigger oxidation of the cancer cells. But to do oxidation, we need oxygen. So then we use things like the hyperbaric and also the Hocket, to bring oxygen into the cancer cells, so that when we expose them to light, that they oxidize. And then the different IVs, poly-MVA. What's that?
Imagine that, exposing the darkness to light. And
Is that cool? I mean, we bring oxygen, which is God gave us oxygen.
Right.
We bring in light.
Yep.
The God divided light, from darkness, and
Right,
so it's
exactly.
very kind of basic principles that you're trying to do to help to heal the body that has disassociated itself from health.
Right. Yeah.
So
it's a matter of replenishing to and restoring what the locust has eaten, but also what the world's done to you, your diet, your environment, and all things you don't have control of. So it's definitely restoration.
And for people listening, I mean, it's yes, I mean, all the therapies that I do are fantastic. I mean, I believe in them wholeheartedly because I've seen so many great effects from them. I do not want to discount the importance of the God factor. You can't. Everything is, God is the true healer, and even though you do the best therapies, if you don't align yourself spiritually, then I still doubt that the best therapies, doesn't matter what you do, that they will fully work.
Yes.
And I think that is exactly what, the blessing that you did, and also the wonderful support of your family, your community. You were all there supporting, and you were one-minded.
Yeah, absolutely. In prayer and I don't mean, I even told people, don't pray for me if you're going to ask if this is God's will, let it happen, because I already know it is. So don't throw that out there. And my kids, even, they would read to me when I was too tired to do it. They would read books that were uplifting to me and stuff. So my family was wonderful. They were just wonderful. It was nice not to have to cook for a while. Did everything for me, so it's nice. And I actually stayed with my daughter because we were living in Nampa and she was closer to your center, so we stayed with her during the 2-week treatment, and so it made it easier to go back and forth each day. And just everybody in my family did their part. Amazing, plus friends that were encouraging and prayerful, and and you guys were great. And I feel like you're my extended family when I go.
Well, you are. You're part of us. Yeah.
Part of the community. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
And I truly hope that my pulmonologist gets a hold of you, because he really wanted to know what you use, what treatments you use that he could integrate into his practice. And I thought that was wonderful that he was open to learning, because so many of them are not.
Yeah.
My daughter met an oncologist outside of a clinical setting, and when she told him my story, he said, that's impossible. They must have misdiagnosed her. So that's a special kind of arrogance. That means all the doctors were wrong, all the tests were wrong,
Yeah. Especially when you did the biopsy, you did the scan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did document all of it, so that there's no chance it was a misdiagnosis.
No, exactly.
This is truly a work of God, and what he's made available in all forms.
I remember as we were doing the treatments, yeah, because you had obviously had a hard time breathing fully. And I remember when all of a sudden you started to be able to breathe.
Yeah. Now, a lot of the symptoms I had, I thought were left over from the heart attack the year before. And they said, oh, no, these, so I said, well, maybe that explains my symptoms. And they said, oh, no, this has nothing to do with it. But the treatments took care of them no matter what it was. Short the breath, the gasping, even the frequent PVCs, my heart would beat real fast. It all went away. It's all gone.
Yeah, yeah.
So I can breathe. Yes, it's miraculous.
And that's the thing when you work on things that are just regenerative, supportive. It's not that it only works on the cancer. It works on everything else. I mean, it supports the body everywhere, and recognizing that the cancer lives in an environment. It lives in the body that God created. So if you then destroy the body with all the chemo, then obviously the cancer is going to have an easier chance to resurface. But if you use God-given tools, natural substances, then the body is going to be stronger after. And then things that were that you may ail from, like after the heart attack or after whatever it may be, that you benefit in those areas as well.
Yeah, and I did, yes.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful, all the way around. And now we're on a new journey, and we're moving, and whole new thing.
Yeah. and you got to go on vacation, or you got to
get to enjoy life.
Yes. So where did you guys go?
Actually, we went to Kentucky to see if we wanted to move there, and we decided we do.
Okay.
So that's where we're going next week.
Yeah.
And we went to Colorado to visit my daughter and some friends. So
yeah, wonderful. Well, Bonnie, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really, really appreciate it. It's such a beautiful story. And
thank you for your help getting here. So.
Well, it was my honor to get to hang with you for a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have a great one.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.